right, we're so lucky to have with us again our friend over there in Texas, the CEO of EnergyX. Thank you, Teague, for joining us. Can't wait to hear about some of these new things going on.
Zach, Jesse, what's up, guys?
Hey, do you mind if we talk about a little politics today too?
I'm fair game.
I mean,
I'm all about politics.
I mean, because Elon just moved all his companies to your state. He's probably like down the street from you right now, and I just feel like, did you have something to do?
Now we got SpaceX and X and Tesla, so all of his companies, I think.
I feel like people are going to pulling into your parking lot by accident sometimes because they'll be like, SpaceX. Oh no, EnergyX. Oh no, I'm in the wrong parking lot.
I think it's happened before, actually.
So, I mean, one of the things that Elon talked about the other night on the earnings call was that someone asked him about Giga Mexico. Things have been kind of stalled there. And they're like, so what's going on with Giga Mexico? And Elon said, well, until the election, because Trump might put tariffs on cars from Mexico, we're going to pause on Giga Mexico. And I was like, ooh. So, yeah, I don't know. Talk to me about what's going on with that.
Yeah, that's a pretty big decision. I think that, from my standpoint, so back in 2020, Trump actually signed an executive order looking to have all domestic production of rare earths and base metals. So like lithium, obviously, which is what EnergyX does, nickel, and the whole kind of portfolio of rare earths. He signed an executive order. So Trump is behind domestic manufacturing of these minerals and battery materials. Now, obviously, the Biden administration has been the best thing ever for the EV market and whole energy transition. I mean, he's been pouring tens of billions of dollars into climate change and the energy transition, which has gone towards building big factories, big projects, huge infrastructure that's created hundreds of thousands of jobs. So I don't necessarily think that Trump would stop that. I mean, just because the theme behind which these jobs are being created is energy transition, the fact is that hundreds of thousands of jobs are being created because of it. And I think that would be a terrible move. And I really don't think that Trump would do that. However, the decision to pause the Mexico Gigafactory is an important one. I mean, we have to see where Trump ends up on this. But I don't think that Trump will come in day one and say, no more EVs or anything like that. Like the floodgates have opened. All these big companies like General Motors, like Ford, Tesla is obviously all EV from the get-go, right? But all these other companies have already committed tens of billions of dollars to the transition. You can't just stop that overnight.
Right.
That just doesn't make sense. So I really think that both administrations, or whichever administration wins, Trump or Harris, will be good for the continuation of EVs and energy transition.
Because it's not just a climate issue, it's also kind of an energy independence issue, and it's also a critical minerals issue. And that makes it a national security issue. So I totally agree with what you're saying, that it just because Trump might want to stop all cars being, imported from Mexico, or not stop, but rather, put tariffs on it in order to help domestic industry, that doesn't really put a kibosh on too many different plans.
Right.
When it comes to EVs, because the ball has gotten rolling and there's really no stopping it, like you're saying.
Yeah, I think to that's a really good point. I think that what the decision was regarding Giga Mexico was more of an import-export issue. Like that plant is not in the United States, it's in Mexico, right? And Trump obviously would want those jobs, 10,000 jobs or however many thousands of jobs are at a gigafactory, to be in the United States, right? So instead of building the next gigafactory in Mexico, build it in Arizona, right?
Talking about big factories and jobs and critical minerals and all within the United States.
Can we pull up a picture of this? So,
yeah.
Teague, what is this we're looking at here? It has a giant X on the roof. It has solar panel. Is this one of SpaceX's new buildings, or what is this?
Oh, that's Twitter headquarters. Is that Twitter headquarters?
No, it's XAI, I think.
It could be mistaken for X's headquarters, but it's actually EnergyX's headquarters. Well, not headquarters, but it's our new U.S. lithium project that we announced earlier this year in June. And we're planning to build this plant called Project Lonestar that will be a 25,000 ton per annum lithium production plant. That will obviously go towards supplying lithium for the EV industry. General Motors, who's one of our largest investors, will get the bulk of that lithium, as well as a few other potential customers. And it's in the Smackover Formation, which is Texas and Arkansas, right next to where Exxon is building a lithium project. So we're super excited to have announced that project.
Okay,
Yeah.
you said 25,000 tons. I feel like it's really hard for most people to grasp that number. That's a big number, because I think I remember the biggest amount of lithium being made in the United States right now, I think, is 5,000 tons a year. Am I close to right on that?
Yeah. So the biggest existing lithium production plant is only 5,000 tons. So this is 5 times larger than the biggest existing. Now, there are other projects that are under development, planning, maybe even construction, that are of equal or bigger size. So I don't want to sit here and claim that we're, it would be the biggest, right? But there are other companies out there that are one's building or planning a 40,000 ton project. I think Exxon is actually looking at 100,000 tons. So not to diminish what EnergyX is working on, 25,000 is still a big plant. Another way to think about that is you can roughly build 14 cars or 14 EVs with every single ton of lithium. So if you're building a 25,000 ton per annum plant, that can roughly go into about 350,000 EVs per year.
Oh, wow. That's almost like gigafactory size production.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
that's close to what Tesla made
At Giga Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. But the other cool thing is, it's not a winner take all. Like we're going to need tons and tons of lithium from all over the place. It's not like there's going to be one winner and everyone else loses. It's going to be pretty much anyone who's getting lithium cheaply enough is going to be winning.
Exactly. I mean, the US will roughly need somewhere between 500 to 750,000 tons of lithium per year, starting in the 2030s, and it'll go up from there. GM alone, for their global fleet, which they have global manufacturing, need about 400,000 tons per year by 2035. The majority of General Motors production is in the United States. They do have plants around the world, including Argentina, Europe, and other places. But yeah, I mean, we'll be a significant percentage of U.S. production, and we obviously hope to expand beyond the first 25,000 tons. 25,000 tons is the starting point, and then hopefully we would, scale that up to 100,000 tons as needed by demand.
And so I think that a question that a lot of people have is, why is the current production of lithium in the United States at only 5,000 tons a year? It seems really low if all of, and obviously there's new projects coming online, but why has it been so low?
So that's actually a pretty easy answer. The reason that it's been so low is because we've never needed lithium. Lithium has never been that important or highly demanded. 5,000 tons per year was enough. EVs have just become important over the past, 5-10 years. And it actually takes a really long time to build a new mine. Mines don't sprout up overnight. Additionally, the best lithium resources are in South America and Australia. So the US has good lithium resources, just like it has decent or good oil reserves. But the best oil, the easiest oil to produce, is over in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia. We obviously recognize that we need to produce our own oil and have now done that and are the largest oil producer. But it costs more. We had to go down a lot deeper. We had to frack. The cost of production is actually a lot more in the US. And it is the same thing with lithium. The grades of lithium in South America are far, far better than they are in the US. So now that the US government has realized that, hey, we need to domesticate this and make sure that we have security of supply chain, national security issues at stake, they're subsidizing the production of domestically produced battery materials, not just lithium, but the whole battery material supply chain. And that, of course, helps companies like us when they're handing out, hundreds of millions of dollars or loaning billions of dollars to build projects.
Now, when I look at Project Lonestar, that it's a rendering at the moment, right? But I'm trying to picture, how does it work? Can you give me just an overview of like, are there going to be trucks bringing in truckloads of brine water, or like how do you get the stuff that you need to make this work?
Yeah, we'll be piping it to the facility. So it's essentially the same thing as an oil and gas refinery. Obviously, much more environmentally sustainable, but the actual carbon penalty of oil and gas isn't bringing it up from subsurface or refining it. It's utilization, burning it in cars. It's the application or the utilization, burning it, that emits, tons of fossil fuels or carbon. And then you just have to do it again because it's a one-time use, right? So same thing with lithium, where we will drill wells and bring up brine, which is salty water that contains lithium. And then you pipe that to the central refinery and you extract the lithium out of the brine. And you make 99.9% pure lithium that goes into batteries. And that's how it'll reach the factory.
Nice. I mean, so I don't have to be worried if I live near the factory because it's not going to smell or burn. There's no smoke.
No,
it's just right.
Nothing like that.
It's kind of like a water treatment plant, but
Right.
without all the
It's exactly
stuff.
like
You're not
water.
taking out any excrement from any of it. You're basically, it's already water.
You're just taking the
It
salt out.
literally is a water treatment plant. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But now you talked about that Exxon's doing this too, but I thought you guys had like this IP and no one else could do this. So like, how are other players doing roughly what you're doing?
Exxon, for instance, Exxon is actually looking to license technology from others.
Oh, okay.
It's probably a mix. Like they have a lot of smart engineers and they're probably looking to semi-develop stuff their own, but semi-license stuff. Exxon is an integrator of things, right? So somebody went out and built this huge land position of lithium mineral rights. And then Exxon went and bought that. Exxon didn't build the whole thing themselves. They wait until people kind of spin up big things and then they have the money to just go buy it, right? So Exxon is looking to put together the technology package to now extract the lithium. And EnergyX isn't the only one that's doing this. We have patented the way that we do it, the way that we think is best, which we believe is actually the lowest cost. So being the lowest cost provider is critical. As lithium, like any commodity, has volatility and goes up and down in price, when the price comes down, you want to be protected and be the lowest cost provider. When the price is up here, everybody's making money. When the price is down here, if your cost is more than my cost, you're going to go out of business first, right? So we have spent a lot of time and filed a lot of patents around our proprietary flow sheet and the way that we kind of do our refinery process to become the lowest cost provider. Not to say that there's a lot of others out there that are working on different ways to do it, different technologies. So, there's a few choices out there for groups like Exxon. We have competitors like any industry.
And just shameless plug here. I mean, we did a whole video where we got to walk around your facility and
You actually
laboratories.
ate some of their brine.
Yeah, I got to try some of the brine, delicious, and we then got to see how you're going to take that brine
The
and
look
turn
on
it
your
into
face,
lithium.
the look on your face didn't indicate it was delicious.
No, it's an acquired taste. Obviously, it's a delicacy, and that's all part of the experience of it. It's much like when you drink a shot of tequila and you do the
Yes,
it's
that is a very good analogy.
It's just like that. I loved it. All right, let's see. You ready?
I'm glad you volunteered for that.
Holy shit. But yeah, if you want to get like a good sense of EnergyX's technology, a shameless plug, that was our a really cool video explaining it.
But yeah, so if I'm a big player here in energy and I want to kind of shift over to what is the future, which is lithium, and I don't have all the answers, can you guys license your tech?
Yeah, we can. And that was actually the original business model of the company. When I came up with the idea for EnergyX and I wanted to get into the lithium industry and I realized a huge opportunity in lithium, it was to develop cutting edge technology that could replace the old antiquated ways that lithium producers were harvesting and producing lithium. And our goal was to develop disruptive technology and license it to the existing producers. So we spent 5 years developing our technology portfolio, and now we have close to 120 patents. And we are still planning to license to producers. Like, for instance, POSCO, not to be confused with Costco. POSCO is a huge global Korean headquartered steel and battery component and lithium manufacturer. So they're one of our major strategic investors. And we want to license our technology to them. And we've been going through a lot of testing with them to license the technology. They're building a 100,000 ton lithium production plant in Argentina. So licensing is still part of our business plan and business model. However, when we realized that we had what we believe to be the best technology at the lowest cost of production, we said we need to vertically integrate. And we need to own our own resources where we can implement our technology. And instead of just licensing to technology to other producers, produce our own lithium that we can sell into the market. So now we have a two-pronged business model where we'll still license the technology, because the demand for lithium is way, way higher than the supply, no matter if we license or don't license. And if we don't license, Exxon's going to get it from somewhere, right? So we might as well license it to them, as well as build our own projects and produce our own lithium.
Because you don't quite have as big a deep pockets as ExxonMobil, but then again, who does? So, I mean, if they were going to be working on it anyway, I get what you're saying. You may as well license to them, and with whatever capital you can have to gather some good resources, also be mining from those resources as well. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of big companies, when we were visiting you before, we got to see GM's EV Hummer. It had your beautiful EnergyX logo wrapped around the truck. You know, there's big companies like that invest with you, but then there's Jesse and I get to invest with you. And like,
we didn't bring you a truck wrapped with your
full
logo
of money,
in it.
right?
Yes, exactly.
But I just saw on your website that it still says that little guys like us can invest. Well, why are you doing that if you already have big capital investors?
The answer is simple. The big strategic investors bring something invaluable, right? They can A, write bigger checks. B, they're strategic in the sense that General Motors is an off-taker or a customer of us to buy the lithium. POSCO, who I mentioned before, is also looking to buy lithium for their cathode business. Lithium goes into cathodes, which are the component in batteries. They're also building their own lithium plant, so they'll be a customer on both sides of our business model. Our third strategic investor is ENI, the Italian oil and gas company. This is a 100 billion plus revenue company. And oil and gas is very similar to lithium extraction. Like we talked about Exxon, you're basically bringing up subsurface fluids and refining it to create a saleable product, right? However, in our total capital mix, we've raised over 100 million to build the plants that we're building today. Strategic investors have been about 50 million of that, and retail investors have been the other 50 million of that. And we have over 25,000 retail investors today. And that all adds up. It's added up to $50 million that has literally enabled EnergyX to get to where it is today. That's a truly invaluable thing for the company. And it also has built a real community of investors behind EnergyX and people that otherwise wouldn't be able to invest into a high growth startup like this. Like our earliest investors have now 10x their money from the original offering that we did. The first share offering was at 81 cents a share. And now we're selling shares at $9.50 a share. And we've done it a few times, and it's slowly gone up each time based on the milestones that we're hitting, based on, the bigger guys coming in. Now there's more bigger guys that are interested in coming in at an even higher price. So we might do that. And then we'll put up the price a little bit more for the next time we do more retail investors. So, it's just been an awesome mix. And whenever we have a big announcement, we have now 25,000 people that get to share in that joy and also spread the message about EnergyX. And it's been an awesome marketing tactic for us. So I found a lot of value in bringing on the retail investors and angel investors that get to participate alongside, the big General Motors of the world.
EnergyX reminds me of what Elon said the other night on the earnings call. He said, look, if you don't believe in autonomy, then don't invest in Tesla. And I feel like it's the same thing here. These investors, I bet, down to the last one, believe in the electrification of our transportation system, of our energy system. And so this is a no-brainer. Like, if you're going to do that, you need batteries. And if you're going to do batteries, you need lithium. And I feel like that just kind of answers the whole question here about you're doing it smartly and cheaply. So if you're doing it that way, like, this is going to work.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if you don't believe in the electrification of our society and sustainability and the energy transition, then don't invest in EnergyX. That's literally what EnergyX is about. I take a lot of my inspiration from Elon, and, autonomy is Tesla's next big thing, right? Like, he's perfected electric vehicles, right? Like, there will never be an oil and gas vehicle that comes out of Tesla. And he continues to work to optimize that. But the future of Tesla is automation and having, self-driving cars and even Optimus. There's a lot of power behind Optimus, and that's where Tesla is going. Now, they still need batteries and lithium.
Yeah,
for all of those things.
I mean, Elon said 20 billion Optimus is like just the low end. So like, you can imagine if that thing needs just say 5 kilowatt hours, let's say, that's an enormous number of batteries.
Well, and
enormous.
And the other thing is this quarter's earnings call from Tesla was interesting because this was like the first time that their energy storage deployment really took off. They 158% growth year over year, 9.4 gigawatt hours of stationary storage, which, I think that a lot of people are focusing attention on the Cybertruck because the Cybertruck, it looks like a Cybertruck and it's driving around. I've been driving around the Cybertruck and I get a lot of attention. What people don't pay any attention to are batteries that are sitting in people's basements and batteries that are sitting out in the middle of a field somewhere. Right. But those batteries are enormous. Yeah. And Elon was asked specifically by an analyst, they were like, okay, are we getting close to market saturation on battery storage? And he laughed in their face because that was the stupidest question anyone asked almost the whole night. Right. No, we're not even anywhere close to battery storage. And I think that a lot of people, including myself, have been so focused on EVs as part of this whole, green transition that we forget about grid-tied batteries, which, a lot of them are going to be LFPs. The L stands for lithium. And I think that another part of the thing that makes me so excited about EnergyX is that we get to be having domestically brined and mined lithium in our cars, in our homes, in our backup storage systems that could make for a more resilient grid, obviously a cleaner form of transportation and energy generation.
Yeah. It's hard to think of a product that lithium won't be in.
And the other day, Trump was at a rally. I think this was
Michigan.
This was after he was shot.
Right.
And he said, that he loves Elon Musk because now Elon Musk has supported him for, according to Trump, has supported him for $45 million a month. And he said
I heard that was debunked. I'm not sure if that's
I've
true.
heard that it was debunked too, but
Elon said
it's today that Elon denied it.
Yeah, he said that he started a super PAC, that he hasn't funded it that much, but
who cares? This is what Trump said. Right. Trump said, that he loves Elon Musk. He loves electric cars. He thinks that the market should have, the market should be decided on, whether or not you buy an electric car, which I honestly kind of agree with him about. I don't think anyone should be forced to buy an electric car. I think that if I show you one, you will probably decide to buy it, especially if you can afford it. And I think that it was the first time that Trump had said that he likes electric cars and that he likes Elon Musk. And so just in case you were worried that the world wasn't going to adopt EVs, you have both political sides of the argument here, both supporting EVs, because I think that this day was inevitable. Yes. That conservatives are going to like electric vehicles for their energy independence, for their national security parts of this, that we can get a lot of the materials that we need from our own soil.
How crazy this is, because when we started the show, if I had said that out loud, that there'll be both candidates running for president will both support EVs, everyone would have said you're crazy.
No, I mean, when we were starting to talk about EVs 9 years ago, the only people buying them were the ultra liberals.
Was you? I think you were one of the first.
You were one of the first people. You were an ultra liberal back. No, I'm just saying.
I'm an ultra progressive.
Yes. But I mean, it was. I mean, I met a lot of them. A lot of them were either old hippies, they were people who really, really cared about the climate. And now we're starting to see just families doing it because it makes economic sense.
Yeah.
And that's been so exciting to me that we've seen a real cultural shift around EVs. And I think that if Trump continues to talk about EVs, and I hope he does, that we could start to see a shift in some of the places and in some of the people that we didn't think would ever buy an EV. I think, again, it's it's a lot like green eggs and ham. Try it. You will see that you like green cars.
There's two things that you touched on that I want to comment on. The first is that, now EVs are becoming affordable and make economic sense, right? But what you have to realize is we're still in the first inning of battery and EV technology. Like, the thing that still needs to get better and is going to get a lot better is fast charging. Just imagine when the time that it takes to charge your EV is the same amount of time that it takes to fill up your gas tank. A 5-minute stop. Today it's 30 minutes, but that's going to go down undeniably, right? And then all the gas stations become charging stations, and range might go up, but a 300 to 500 mile range is really good enough as long as you have a lot of charging stations and the charging time is minimal, right? The transition to EVs is undeniable. And like you said, both candidates and both political parties are truly behind it, because what does it do? It's creating jobs. It's creating thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of jobs, domesticating this whole supply chain for EVs. The second thing you said that I didn't even know were those statistics about battery storage. I mean, that is incredible, because people obviously know what they can touch and feel. Like, you can go look at, you see Teslas driving around the road, and you know that these are electric vehicles. You don't really know about the battery farm that's sitting in the middle of nowhere, taking the same amount of lithium as 1,000 EVs that you see driving around. Like, that is really powerful. I did not know those statistics on the growth that Tesla saw in their battery storage division.
Right. Well, and not only that, I mean, Tesla's battery storage division that's one thing. What Zach and I have been noticing is this explosion in consumer grade and maybe prosumer grade batteries. So, you've probably seen little ones that people can take camping, and it's like 1 kilowatt hour, and that's cool. But that whets people's appetite. That's, to use another kid's storybook, that's like you give a mouse a cookie and he's going to want a glass of milk to go with it. Once people are like, wait, I can have a battery? I'm holding it. This is a battery, and I can put energy in. I can take energy out. Then they start to realize that they can run their house off of that, and it gets really attractive. And I think that Tesla was way ahead of the game in terms of having Powerwall, but now people are starting to see that they can install it themselves. There are so many different, from EcoFlow to Blue Yeti to 1,000 different Chinese companies. We just installed a 15 kilowatt hour battery ourselves, like a couple of numbskulls with wire strippers. Like,
you guys aren't numbskulls, though.
But I mean, like, it's starting to get to the point where the batteries are starting to get affordable, and that people are starting to be able to play with them. And I think that is where stuff gets really exciting, because when we're talking about like consumer electronics, there were no computers in like 1970. Like, people having a computer like in your house, No, like, it would be a mainframe, and there'd be, it would be making all sorts of robot noises. It would sound like R2-D2. Once people started to have computers in their homes, they were, big clunky PCs that were weak as hell. Now you can have this. And it's like, where did we get this? We got this from people tinkering around with computers. And I feel like as soon as we start getting more and more people tinkering around with batteries, they're going to want them in everything.
Yeah. And you know what, to just bring that one step further, I love that it's called EnergyX and not like Lithium X, because now that people are starting to put this together, that this is the future of energy, and it's coming from the United States. So like Project Lonestar, I think what got me so excited, it got me like nationalistic. I was like, this is coming from here. Yeah. Like, we don't have to import this on boats or something, that we're actually going to get what we need from our own country. That's so exciting, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have another project, right, which is in Chile, and I was excited about that. But honestly, because it's in a different country, the nationalistic part of myself was like, well, it's from a different country. This is here
in our backyard.
in our
right?
backyard.
Mm.
And didn't I hear that we now have like what the third largest reserve or something of lithium?
It's possible. I mean, now that lithium has become important, people have really started exploring for it, right? Like I said, the biggest lithium production site in the US is only 5,000 tons. We haven't really even explored for lithium in the United States. Now that it's important and people are making money off of it, everybody's looking for it. And I'm sure that our reserves have grown. And yeah, we might be third. I think probably not third. I think that Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, and Australia are probably all in front of us in terms of reserves. So maybe we're fifth, but our numbers could go up. Like we could become the biggest producer. We're a bigger producer than in oil and gas than anywhere in the world, right? So yeah.
I also wonder if Elon might have made a slight mistake, and I want your input on this. So Elon's also going after lithium. He knows how important it is. So in Corpus Christi, Texas, they are also refining lithium right now. They're not mining it, but they're refining it. But they're doing a different way, right? They're doing hard rock. And I just wonder maybe if we should send him a letter or something and be like, dude, maybe you should do it the way that Teague's doing it over at EnergyX. Because it seems like, I don't know, it's a lot of work the way they're doing it.
It is. I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about Elon. What I can say is that Tesla, for the most part, has used NMC, which is nickel, manganese, cobalt type batteries. Those have higher energy density as opposed to LFP. And they use lithium hydroxide, which has been known to more easily come from hard rock, where in brine, which is what we produce, you typically produce lithium carbonate, which is for LFP, and then you convert that into lithium hydroxide. Now, EnergyX has come up with a way to go directly to lithium hydroxide from brine, which will significantly decrease the costs of lithium hydroxide from the brine source. But traditionally, lithium hydroxide has more easily come from hard rock, spodumene, and that is what the refinery that Tesla is building in Corpus Christi is for. It's also, like I said, well understood and proven method. So Elon's thinking was not to reinvent the wheel, not to necessarily try to come up with new technology to do that. His problem is just, hey, I need more lithium, and I'm going to go out and figure out how to get the volumes of lithium hydroxide that I need for the gigafactory in Texas. And the best way that he thought to do that was to import the spodumene ore into Houston and refine it into lithium hydroxide in Corpus Christi. So that's the path that they chose. And like I said, building these factories and doing this takes a long amount of time. And, how quickly technology is developing sometimes may surpass decisions that were made years ago. Like he made that decision 3 or 4 years ago, probably, to build that factory. So it wasn't wrong back then. It may be at a slight cost disadvantage to the way that we are going to be able to do it when we start manufacturing in 3 or 4 years. But, it'll accomplish the same thing, just at a slightly higher cost.
Now, you said a lot of your lithium is going to go to GM, one of your investors, and that's at the Lonestar project. But you're going to be in the same state or close by to Giga Texas. So how much lithium could you spare for Tesla, do you think?
We can spare a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, it feels so like in 25,000, like you said, that's kind of your early phases. What's the upper bounds?
That just depends on how much resource we get in the area. But honestly, my goal is to be producing between 100 and 200,000 tons. That is from this project site, and it could even go higher. My goal as a company across the different countries that we're producing in, Chile, US, we're looking at a few other projects, is to be producing 1 million tons of lithium. That's the goal by 2035, 2040.
Wow. Now, Project Lonestar is really cool. Love the location. Love the amount of lithium that's in the ground and how much you can produce. Are you still looking for more resources to acquire, or are you kind of satiated for now? You got enough salt in your system?
We're always looking for more resources. So if you are a lithium owner in the Smackover, we want to work with you, because the problem is there's all this lithium in the brine, right? But there is no facility yet. So if you're an oil and gas, if you have mineral rights that are oil and gas, that infrastructure is built. Anybody that comes and drills a hole can just throw that crude oil into a pipeline and the landowners get paid. The problem with lithium is the infrastructure is not built. So if you want to make a royalty on your mineral rights, there has to be a buyer for that, right? And we are a buyer. We're obviously building this project. So we're always looking to increase our acreage position. That's the only way that we'll be able to increase the quantity or the capacity of the plant from 25 to beyond.
Now, I kind of have an interesting question, I guess. It's kind of a stupid question. How do we know that there is brine where we find the brine? Like, was somebody drilling down? Like, is it like an oil company and they were drilling down and they're like, sir, something's coming out of the pipe. And they said, what is it? It's salty water, sir. Okay, well, that sucks. Keep drilling. We want oil. And then, they wrote that down somewhere and then somebody finds it and they say, okay, well, we kind of know what's underground here.
Not a stupid question at all.
Okay.
The USGS, U.S. Geological Survey, which is like a government institution, has tracked all the wells that have ever been drilled, right? And a lot of these oil and gas wells, a lot of water comes up with oil and gas. Like that is actually the biggest byproduct and the biggest expense when they have to figure out what to do with this water, right? So, for instance, a Chevron will actually pay another company to take that water away and re-inject it. And they'll pay a couple bucks per barrel of water to do that. That is their biggest expense. And so we understand where there's a lot of water and what the composition of that water is, right? Through historical oil and gas drilling. So we have a good idea of where there are high lithium concentrations from these previous wells that have been drilled over the past 100 years. And those are really the areas that we're targeting right now.
I guess that kind of leads me to my next question, which would be, I know that there are regions within the United States that are more oil rich, or at least have seen a lot more oil exploration and pumping out of the ground. But there are lots of places in the United States that don't have much oil infrastructure, but they probably still have water underground. It's not that like water is always located with oil underground. It's just that there is a lot of water underground. Does that mean that there's places in the United States that have seen no discovery?
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely places that have seen no discovery. All the oil and gas drilling was for oil and gas. It wasn't for lithium brines, right? There just happens to be a lot of water everywhere. There's subsurface water, right? So there just happen to be subsurface water that has, other minerals in it that has been viewed as waste to date. But there are a lot of places, like for instance, the Salton Sea in California, that brine has been drilled for power purposes. So drilled super deep. It's geothermal brine. So it comes out of the ground at like 600 degrees Celsius. We generate power from that through geothermal power plants. There happens to be some pretty decent lithium concentrations in that brine. In the Great Salt Lake, this is obviously not an oil and gas drilling site, but people are harvesting the other salts from the Great Salt Lake brines. There's a decent amount of lithium in that brine. There is some lithium concentrations up in the Marcellus Shale up in Pennsylvania. And to your point, there's probably lithium in places that we haven't explored yet.
So we could be number one someday.
It's true, right? Like, I mean, there could have been some lithium asteroid that smashed into something, formed a mountain, and then over 1 million years, got eroded away by rain, and then that's just sitting underground somewhere.
Maybe.
So I want to go to jobs for a second because, politicians love jobs. And it seems like this is going to be a new workforce we're going to need to help do all this, right? I mean, we got to build pipelines. We got to do all the filter technology. We need engineers. We need all sorts of people to do this.
Yeah, just from Project Lonestar, we are estimating 220 direct jobs that will be hired at the plant, up to 800 indirect jobs, jobs that, are suppliers or third-party vendors, things like that, and over 2,000 construction jobs during the building of the plant, right? So a lot of new jobs, and we're looking to, this is the Smackover is a region that used to be very rich in oil and gas, but has since dried up to a great extent. So looking to bring that type of workforce that used to be in oil and gas into this new energy transition industry. And I think that's super exciting for the labor force of kind of Northeast Texas, Southwest Arkansas, Smackover region. But to your point, like even bigger than Project Lonestar and what EnergyX is building, the IRA and the Infrastructure Act, like just for battery supply chain, the Biden administration is investing $6.5 billion of grants. And then there's another tens, maybe 50 billion in loans. And these are going towards building projects and plants similar. EnergyX is just one lithium plant that's doing 25,000 tons, right? That needs to go into cathodes that are a battery component. That's a whole plant that takes probably comparable number of jobs. Those go into batteries. There's, dozens of gigafactories that are probably employing thousands of people each. And then that goes into electric vehicles. And we have huge electric vehicle plants like the gigafactory that's 10,000 jobs. I mean, this whole energy transition is employing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. So from a political standpoint, it really doesn't matter which administration is elected. Like, it's a huge opportunity for the US to reinvigorate our manufacturing prowess on the theme of the energy transition.
Now, there's not a whole lot of lithium extraction going on in this country right now, right? I mean, who are the other players?
Albemarle is the only player that has that 5,000 ton plant. You have Livent that is actually merged with another company to create Arcadium that is probably the third biggest lithium company that's based in the US but has global resources. They do a lot of refinery here. Their resources either come from Canada or South America. You have Lithium Americas that's building the 40,000 ton plant that I mentioned in Nevada. That's in Thacker Pass. That's a clay resource. They got a $2.3 billion loan from the Department of Energy, which is super exciting. You have Standard Lithium that is building a project in Arkansas. They got a big investment from Equinor, which is a big oil and gas company. You, of course, have Exxon that's building the 100,000 ton plant that I mentioned. And then there's a handful of others alongside EnergyX. But, there's a handful of direct lithium extraction companies that are trying to develop the technology. And then there's a handful of resource companies. And the cool thing about EnergyX is we are literally both. We're trying to vertically integrate that, which helps us be the lowest cost provider.
And to lowest cost, I just want to talk about the fact that your lithium kind of stands out above other countries' lithiums because there's an incentive to use your lithium. Can you explain that a little bit more to people? Because I don't think they understand the IRA and the fact that there's like different, you don't really want lithium from China.
Well, you definitely don't want it from China. So the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, I was actually at a conference in DC, and the senator who's head of the Energy Committee, who basically formed the bill, said it should have been called the Energy Transition Act instead of the IRA. But basically what it's doing is it's subsidizing electric vehicles. So if you go buy an electric vehicle today, if a percentage that's stated in the IRA is sourced either domestically or from free trade partners of the United States, of which Chile is a free trade partner, then the government will send you a check for $7,500. And that is a super attractive thing for electric vehicle companies to be able to tell their customers, right? Like, if all else is equal and you get $7,500 back from buying a Chevy Silverado EV, but you don't get it from Ford in their F-150 Lightning because they source their battery materials from places that don't comply with the IRA, you're going to choose that EV Silverado, right? So it's a huge incentive for the EV companies to make sure that their lithium and the whole battery supply chain up to that certain percentage threshold, which increases over time. Today, it's 40% of the battery. I think it goes up to 70 or 80 in forthcoming years, is compliant with the IRA. So the lithium that we produce, obviously in the US, complies. The lithium that we produce or will produce in Chile complies. So being compliant with the IRA is a huge incentive for customers.
Yeah, so your lithium gets like a red, white, and blue sticker on it every time you make it, right?
Maybe a slightly higher price for the purchaser. Yeah.
Right. Wow. This has been so much fun talking to you. I love every time we talk to you, we learn more about not only your company, but also what's going on in the world of energy and lithium. So thank you so much for being with us today, Teague. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to come back down there and visit you guys and see what you're up to next.
Zach, Jesse, it's been awesome seeing you guys. Thanks so much.